since I remember, I have always felt the internal pressure to chase for something, to chase for some points in my game I'm currently playing. And in most cases, for the most part, the points were money, simply put. I was trying to earn money. I was growing up poor and I had this desire to earn money. And that was the game I've been playing. And that was the chase, the main chase of my life to some extent, you know? And I was in the sports gambling industry. And so the amount of intense experiences is huge, is absolutely huge. And so I have conditioned myself even further to chase, to chase for a reward, I score, I'm euphoric, I'm happy, I feel this drive, even more. And if I don't, I feel depressed, I feel lack of purpose, and the conditioning has been active for like 2 decades or whatever. And I've done well. I'm glad. I'm really grateful. And then I was scoring points in other games, such as, in the story of my binge eating disorder story, I've been chasing calorie deficit, like lifting weights and counting calories to get a body I desired, that was the game I was playing, even in the philosophy, in like self-inquiry process, doing the meditation, doing like reading books, listening to podcasts and analyzing everything, there was some sort of game as well, I was managing my time, I was playing with my schedule like I always did, and I was writing down the podcasts I watched, books I read, things like basically all the internal work I did. And I absolutely value that I did it. I am proud of myself in a way. At least I'm grateful for that, that was a great tool to do that, but this conditioning has been going on for years, even further, even after I realized, I don't want to chase anymore. And even going further, going now, I have created this YouTube channel, like a totally new terrain for me. And I know that I don't want to play this numbers game. I don't want to chase for likes. I don't want to be like popular and attract regular viewers. I want to find like-minded people. I want to create a community of like people who want to like be truly honest with themselves and address our sort of loneliness, because people around me are not this kind of people, and that's typical for most people to some extent, at least, but yeah, all I want to say is that I don't want to play this numbers game. I don't really have this desire to have as many subs as possible, but still I can easily observe that this game, this chasing game, to some extent is inevitable. Because if I have zero engagement, zero viewers, like my motivation, my drive will basically stop. And that is about accepting my primal conditioning, I would say, or like basic conditioning. And what's the difference between talking to my mirror or writing down something on a paper and not sharing it with anyone, or recording a video and post it on YouTube? And then what's the difference between me posting it on YouTube but nobody will watch, or posting it on YouTube with the expectation that at least some people will watch it and will engage, will tell me, oh, you're stupid, or you're clever, oh, that was interesting, or that was uninteresting, or basically they will ignore me, It's like contemplating those topics is a valuable lesson for me, because I'm like I said, I am new to this game. And on one hand, I don't want to chase, and that is the main intention. I just want to engage in deeper relationship, in honest communication, and learn as much as possible. That's another game. As much as possible. Learn as much as possible. Make this time, make this experience count. You know? That's just something I've been observing in myself, and that's a very interesting process for me, myself. And what I'm trying to say in this video is that, like, what can I do? Is it that nobody is watching, and maybe should I make it more attractive? And like, there are many good answers to these questions. But for example, like I mentioned, I'm starting something new. I'm basically inviting other people to conversations, and I've already recorded 2 conversations. I just need to do some short editing, and I will upload and publish over the next few days, like a few conversations. And I already interviewed one girl from Thailand. I mean, she's from Russia, but she lives in Bangkok, and one young guy from Canada. And those were 2 really engaging conversations. I felt for myself. I mean, I felt the engagement in myself, but my perception of the other person on the other side of the screen, on the other continent, I also felt the engagement. And, you know, again, what's the difference? Like, we were not meeting for a coffee and having a conversation just for the sake of a conversation. We were having a conversation with the intention of recording it, publishing it, and that's different. That makes the experience very different. For some reason, we could basically contemplate on why that is the case, and there will be some better and worse answers for that. But that's already interesting. Why some people need it, well, some people want it, why some people are not interested in that. And that is another source of self-inquiry for me. And then, you know, I'm learning during the conversations, during having these conversations. And there's one thing I don't want to keep it very long, basically as a part of playing this game, to make it bearable for a potential viewer, potential listener. I have no idea if somebody is listening anymore other than me, but it's just part of the experience, But as an example, I want to document one example from one of the conversations I recorded. Basically, we were discussing a book by James Clear with Nolan from Canada, and I shared something like, I've read James's blog posts way before he was popular, way before he wrote a book. And then Nolan, who I was making an interview with, he said something like, "Oh, you mentioned you read this book," and basically, I didn't read this book. I never said I did. I read his blog posts, and that's something about me, some conditioning that I felt this, and I just listened 20 minutes ago. I listened to this conversation and I reflected on that, and I've always had it in me, this conditioning, this high energy desire to basically interrupt him and say, "No, you're wrong. I didn't read his book. I only said that I read his blog posts." And I wanted to interrupt him with when he was making a point, when he was about to make a point, And that's a lesson I'm learning. I'm growing like that, That is the stage of my life, and I want to do that. Why would I want to interrupt him? I understand. Yeah, I could say, "You lied about me. You said something about me that is not true, and I didn't say that." And but why? What would it add? What value would it add to our conversation? Basically, none. It would just interrupt him, and instead of him making a point, I would just argue about something not important. it's a small thing, and we could discuss it on many levels, you know. But it's just something I want to work on it, because I observed in me many times in the past that I am like, you know, arguing about everything with everything that is not factually correct, you know, and that is basically making me maybe overwhelming for other people. And I'm learning how to read a room in a better way, you know. That's like probably the biggest area for improvement as of 2025. So it's just one example I wanted to share, but other than that, I think I just wanted to document that I value documenting the process, even though it feels weird. Like I'm talking to a young, grinding, hustling 18-year-old from Canada who is like, you know, at the beginning of his self-improvement journey. Maybe not at the beginning, but he's like, you know, he's young, so he go for it, you know, like he's okay to do that. And I'm old, so I should have like a regular life, and, you know, like people around me pretty much settle. And I basically value that I have this young spirit in me, and I want to cultivate it, even though it sometimes feels weird to have like a small YouTube channel. And, you know, this idea of not fitting into society, I don't want to feel ashamed. I want to embrace it you know, I want to embrace it, you know. This is me. This is the authentic version of me. And I'm not saying that I have to talk about it everywhere to everybody, because I want to learn how to read a room, you know. This is the right room from my perspective, you know. Having a small YouTube channel with zero, maybe not zero, but like almost zero views, zero engagement. And if nobody wants to listen, then nobody wants to listen, and I can still learn from it, you know. Yeah, thanks for being here, if you are here. And, you know, I'm just going to publish the conversations over the next few days, and I'll continue my journey. I don't know if it will be here or it will be somewhere else, but wherever it is, you know. So yeah, just a few words. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.